Okay, I'm Joe. He's Nick, and you are listening to hour number 2, segment number 3 of the Nick and Joe Show. And I'm here at the National Capital Studio for ThinkRadio.ca, the Think Radio Broadcast Center in Canada's National Capital. See, Nick, I screwed that up. I was thinking of you as I was saying it, but that wasn't a bad introduction.
I do that to a lot of people, Joseph.
Okay, well, we'll let you get away with it this time, Nick. No problem.
All right.
We talked a little bit about the last segment. We were talking about the debate with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And if you're listening to the show tonight live, you're probably not listening to you're not watching the vice presidential debate, which is okay with us because we think that we're far more informative, but hey, it's far more entertaining. Certainly, we would be more entertaining tonight than a vice presidential debate, Nick. I don't think that we could compete with a presidential debate, not like what we went through last week. And of course, we were talking earlier about also in segment number 1 about the Liberal NDP Socialist coalition that appears to be governing Canada now, as a matter of practice, if not theory. But getting back to Canadian politics and the kind of virtue signaling that our governments are involved in, Nick, and here we are now, of course, with the whole thing about banning plastics. I was hearing today that they're talking about, we've been talking in Canada for quite some time about banning single-use plastics, and so the government, I don't think, has come out with its regulations yet, but certainly they're going to do something imminently in this area.
Yes, you're right. And what they've done, I'm looking at a story from the Ottawa Sun from today. They have decided that they're going to ban 6 plastics that are normally hard to recycle. Let's see. The proposed ban still has to go through the government's regulatory process, but Wilkinson said the goal is to have it in place by the end of 2021. Now, what's he banning? Okay, let's see. That means it's the end of the road for plastic straws, stir sticks, carry-out bags, cutlery, styrofoam dishes, and take-out containers, and 6-pack rings for cans and bottles. That's, the problem with this is there's a very easy solution. There is no need for this kind of nonsense. Before, if you set up a high-efficiency energy from waste plant and you simply burn it instead of trying to recycle it, you actually are recycling it because you're extracting the energy that it contains. Plastic's nothing but hardened gasoline. And we use it because it's sanitary, because it's lightweight, and for the jobs that we employ it for, it's strong enough, right? And plastic straws, you make them by the billions, but so what? They all end up in the landfill anyway. They don't end up with up some turtle's nose who doesn't know how to snort cocaine. Just, this kind of stuff. This is the kind of nonsense. It's why people like me have such a problem with this stuff. Because when you look behind what's propelling it, and you look beyond the facade, you realize that this is just window dressing. There's no substance to this. It's not going to make a whit of difference to the environment, one way or the other. You're going to create a false industry, one that is not sustainable, because if it was sustainable, you wouldn't need the government to create it. I mean, take the gun registry as an example. They put the gun registry in place, and it cost them $1 billion. Now, set aside what credit card companies do exactly the same thing: collect data, store it, and even bill for it for pennies on the dollar. So it's not that whether or not you like the gun registry idea or not, it was a complete and total shambles from beginning to end. This is the same thing. You've got a bunch of people running around trying to make themselves feel good, imposing their worldview on the rest of us through writ or regulation, and I'm just fed up with the nonsense. Like recycling, there's only two things that you should recycle. Let's say three: aluminum, copper, and steel, and that's because of the high cost of manufacture in the first place. Everything else, burn it, turn it into turn it into electricity. There's no reason why every major town in this country shouldn't have its own EFW plant. The money you would save by canceling unnecessary recycling programs, by not needing landfills, by all that, the stuff to the taxpayer would be huge. And yet, nope, can't do that. That makes sense. I was involved for a while with a company that's exactly what they wanted to do, was set up in an EFW plant in the city of Ottawa. And at the same time, the city of Ottawa was married to this plasma gas method, and it just that technology is a really good technology, but it is improperly applied when it comes to recycling. It's meant to make aluminum, not recycle things. So there's all kinds of reasons why this is a bad idea, and they're just going to go ahead with it anyway without, they want to make it look good. They don't care about the consequences.
Well, I think thank you, Nick. I think what troubles me the most about what I am hearing is that not so much the ban on these plastics, although I'm very much opposed to them, and one of the things that I happen to know about is this idea of plastic bag, carry-out bags. For instance, if you go to the grocery store, will I be able to get a plastic bag to carry my groceries out? And as it happens, I've stopped using grocery store plastic bags, and I have these green bins, okay, which are just plastic. Again, they're plastic, but they're boxes. And I bring it into the grocery store. I put my groceries in those boxes as I'm going through, and I put the boxes. I empty them out when I get to the cash. The groceries go through the cash, and on the other side, I repack the groceries into these boxes, and they're reusable. I use them over and over again, and they've got a couple of handles on them. And I'll tell you, Nick, I do it not because it's environmentally beneficial. I do it because it's so much more convenient than those damn plastic bags. I hate having to go up and down the stairs in my place, out to the car and get 4 or 5 plastic bags, bring them into the kitchen, go out 4 or 5 plastic bags, bring them into the kitchen. And, of course, you can't overload these bags because they end up breaking if there's too much stuff in there. They're very awkward. Anyway, I just discovered that these boxes, in addition to being quote-unquote environmentally friendly, they happen to be very convenient for me. So I use them. But I'm not against carry-out plastic bags. What I would say is that there are now biodegradable plastic bags. And so if you're worried about landfill, if you're worried about these bags, the plastic sort of seeping into the environment over 400 and 500 and 1,000 years or whatever, that in fact doesn't have to be the case anymore, because we do have biodegradable plastic bags. And if a grocery store is environmentally conscientious and they feel that for the sake of the environment they have to stop using plastic bags that are going to fill up the landfill for hundreds of years, there are options for them. Why they're not using these bags, I don't know. It could very well be that they haven't been able to obtain government approval. Again, because the government has to look at the safety value of everything. But anyway, let's set all that aside, sweep it off the table, Nick, and talk about what I think is the real problem with this whole argument about plastic, banning plastic. And that is that I'm hearing that one of the things the government is poised to do is to declare plastics a toxic substance. And my understanding, although I'm not entirely certain of why it is, I would want to look into this myself personally, but my understanding from what I was hearing today through the mainstream media is that one of the reasons why the government feels it's going to be necessary to declare plastic a toxic substance is because that will give them the power to impose some of these regulations that they may not otherwise have. Now, that surprises me a little, and, I would like to look into that a little further before I say that's true or not true. But you understand the implication of issuing a press release and having news reporters out there talking about how plastic is a toxic substance. I mean, before you know it, you're going to get people who don't know any better. And, I hate to say this, but there are a lot of people out there who don't know any better, Nick, who are going to be saying, oh, my God, we can't have plastic containers to store our food in the fridge. And what about, plastic? I'm holding up a pen right now here in the studio and looking at it. And I'm thinking, this pen is made out of plastic, with the exception of the little metal clips that I could put it in my pocket and pretend I'm some sort of a 1960s geek with a pocket protector and everything, which, by the way, is made out of plastic. Think of my cell phone is mostly made out of plastic. My computer screen in front of me. In fact, the whole computer everything on my computer, keyboard.
90% of the things that you use are based on or used directly plastic.
Right.
Everything
I'm sitting
from
in
our
a
cars
plastic
to our
chair.
homes. I mean, look, you're probably sitting at a table with plastic on it. Your car. Think about how much plastic's in that. Think about the dishwasher, the freezer, the dry, the oven. All these things, the computer we're using, all these things. Many of the clothes we wear are a derivative of plastic.
So here's
what do they want us to do? Go back to 1860?
Well, I don't think so, Nick. I think that I think that they want to be very selective in what they're banning. Okay, I truly do. I think that while I disagree with this measure, I think that this is one of those examples of good intentions. Okay, they believe that there's a problem here and they want to solve the problem. Okay, I will give them that much, but only that much. Here's my real deep concern. And I'm going to shift now over to the whole climate change, global warming issue, where you have a handful of people who raise alarm and they exaggerate the problem and they use terminology that in the minds of the average person out there, when they're hearing this and they're not thinking about it, there are a lot of people that believe that the world is on the verge of a catastrophe. They keep hearing models saying, if we lose all of our polar ice caps, the sea levels could rise 150 feet. Okay. Well, of course, the sea levels are never going to rise 150 feet. We're never going to lose all of our polar ice caps. Quite the opposite. If you follow this stuff, you know that polar ice is increasing right now and that we're not in a global warming period anymore. But over the last few years, it's been cooling. But there's this impression that people have been indoctrinated into, that they're thinking warming, warming, warming. Everything now is attributed to global warming. Everything. Forest fires,